Okay, so we're finally ready to cut our miters on our segments. Now, this is a time when you have to make sure that your sled is absolutely perfect. Not close enough, it has to be perfect. This is not a time when you want to do a half ring and then another half ring and then, touch them up on the sander or run them through the table saw like I showed in an earlier video, because that will make your joint not line up. It'll be a little bit crooked. So you want to get this right from the very beginning here. So with all the test cuts done, we're ready to start cutting our zigzag pattern here. So how do we do this? Well, what I've done is I put a center line here on the sled, on the fence. And what we're going to do is we're going to line up our joint here on this line. And what that's going to do is just come in and clip off that corner. We want it to come right to that corner. Then we'll flip it over. We'll do the same thing. Again, line it up with the center line. That assures us everything stays symmetrical and we get a perfect pattern. Now, problem is, maybe the camera can see this, our joints came out extremely nice and tight. And of course, that's exactly what we wanted, but it makes it a little harder to see. So what I've done is took a ruler and drew a pencil line straight down on that joint. So what we'll do is we will come over, line up our two pencil lines, make a cut, flip it over, line it up again, make our other cut. Now, the thing about safety here, I am comfortable holding this piece just like this and running it through. My fingers are a good 1.5 inches, 2 inches or so away from the blade. I'm comfortable with that. It is up to you to decide what you're comfortable with. You might have seen some people that when cutting pieces will take a pencil using the eraser, run it through and cut it. I am not comfortable with that at all. I don't like my hand to basically be floating in air. I would rather it be secured down to something. With my hand down here, I am gripping the fence, so there's no chance that my hand can wander away. It's very solidly secure. But the guys that use the little pencil trick seem to love it, so that's what they do. To me, I would rather do this, so that's the method I'm going to use. You can certainly use your toggle clamp, maybe not this style, but they have other styles that basically push in from the front. You could get one of those and install it. Or of course C-clamp. You could always just clamp it down, loosen the clamp, flip it over, clamp it again. But for me, I'm comfortable, holding this piece. If it was smaller, I definitely would go with a C-clamp, but this piece is big enough where I feel comfortable enough to hold it. So again, for this operation, we're going to line it up. We're not going to use our stop block, and we're not going to use the toggle clamp. We're just going to run them through, flip them, run them again. So let me get cutting, and I'll show you guys the completed circle here in just a minute. So with all our pieces mitered, I've got them dry fit into the clamps right now. And I can't stress enough how important it is to dry fit these together and make sure that all your miters and your intersection points are going to line up exactly right. If for some reason they don't, you could take a few of these pieces, whichever ones aren't lining up, over to the disc sander and hopefully clean up the edges and get your pattern back in line. Now, what we want to do when we start gluing this together is we want to look at the points at which our pattern comes together. This is what's important. We want to make sure each one of these is absolutely perfect. If that means that one piece overall is higher than the other and this ring is not level, well, that's fine. Remember, we cut this just a little bit thicker than what we needed because we're going to sand it flat anyway to get it ready to glue onto the other rings. Another thing that I've done, I've looked at the pattern and switched some pieces around until I found the pattern that I like the best. So I've numbered it. This will keep it in order when I go back and glue it together permanently. Another reason to number these is it would be very easy when we're working fast trying to get this glue on if one of these pieces got flipped upside down. If that was to happen now, it would be a complete disaster. So this is just a little extra insurance to make sure that we don't mess up at this stage. Okay, so it's out of the clamps and our pattern is looking good so far. All I've done now is simply hot glued it to some MDF, and I'm getting ready to turn it and flatten this ring. So hopefully the next time you see it, it will be included into the finished bowl, and I'll give you guys an update in a little bit and show you how it turned out. So with our ring flattened, what we want to pay attention to now is the distance between the top of these points to the outer edge of our ring here. And if we refer back to our original drawing, what we want to do is take our ruler and measure the distance that we drew and then compare it to the distance that we have. And if it's the same, then that's as far as we need to go. We don't want to remove any more material from that point on. So the next step is to basically free it from the MDF. And what we'll do is we will then glue it in its proper position on the rest of our bowl blank here. Okay, when that is dry, I will take the bowl blank, mount it in the lathe from the bottom, okay, and of course our feature ring will now be on this side. But what we'll do is we will surface this edge while it's already glued to the bowl blank, making sure to match the reveals between these points in the edge to these points in the edge. We want to keep it as symmetrical as possible. And when that's done, we'll glue on our top and final ring and then turn the entire thing as one complete bowl. Well, after a couple of days of gluing, we finally got our blank ready to go. So let's take a look at it. We've got cherry on the top, cherry on the bottom, of course our cherry zigzag pattern, and pine for the rest of the field. So, are you guys curious to see what the final product's going to look like? Well, good. Me too. So let's head over to the lathe and find out. All right, looks good. Let's flip it around and do the other side.